Imagine being trapped in a space so small you cannot stand, you cannot sit, you cannot lie down, for days, for weeks. Just four walls closing in, darkness absolute, and the slow dissolution of your mind. This was not a dungeon in some distant nightmare. This was the Little Ease, hidden somewhere deep within the Tower of London, and it was designed for one purpose alone, to break you without leaving a mark. Welcome back to Cruel Histories. Today we descend into the most psychologically devastating cell ever constructed on English soil, and the story of the woman who endured it and refused to break. The year is 1546. England is tearing itself apart over religion. King Henry VIII is in the final year of his reign, his health failing, and his court is a viper's nest of paranoia. Traditionalist factions are desperate to root out Protestant reformers who threaten their influence over the aging king. And somewhere in London, a woman named Anne Askew has caught their attention. Not because she is plotting treason, but because she will not recant her faith. Anne Askew was born around 1521 into a wealthy Lincolnshire family. By her early 20s, she had become a Protestant reformer at a time when such a position could cost you everything. She began preaching, she distributed banned religious texts, she challenged priests in public, and most dangerously, she refused to be silenced when the authorities demanded it. In 1545, Anne was arrested for heresy. She was examined by bishops. They offered her a way out. Simply agree to accept the king's traditional doctrine, and you will be released. She refused. They arrested her again in 1546. This time, the interrogation was different. This time, they wanted information. They wanted her to name other reformers, other secret Protestants in positions of power. They wanted her to break, and so they brought her to the Tower of London. The Tower in 1546 was not just a prison. It was an engine of state control, filled with cells designed for specific purposes. The White Tower held important prisoners. The Beauchamp Tower held rebels and traitors. But for those who needed to be broken psychologically, there was the Little Ease. The Little Ease was hidden away, its exact location deliberately obscured. Prisoners held there were often not recorded in official documents. No one outside the tower knew you were inside it. No one could help you. The cell itself was roughly 4 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet. A cube of stone. A single door. No window. No light except what seeped through cracks. No toilet, no bed. Nothing but walls and darkness and time. When you entered the Little Ease, you had to crouch or bend. As time passed and your muscles weakened, even that became impossible. You would have to sit with your knees drawn up to your chest. As hours turned to days, even that position became unbearable. Your legs would cramp. Your back would scream. The only option left was to lie on your side, curled like a child in the womb, in the darkness, waiting. Anne Askew was placed in the Little Ease. The exact duration of her confinement is unclear from the historical record, but it was long enough to constitute deliberate torture, long enough to break most people, long enough for the authorities to believe that a woman alone in absolute darkness, unable to move, unable to see, would eventually tell them what they wanted to know. They were wrong. During her imprisonment, Anne was repeatedly questioned. Lord Chancellor Wriothesley himself came to interrogate her. He demanded she name the names of other Protestants. He demanded she recant. He offered her mercy if she would simply cooperate. Anne refused every offer. She prayed in the darkness. She held to her faith. She would not break. What the authorities did not anticipate was that psychological torture can work both ways. The Little Ease was meant to isolate you, to make you feel abandoned, to strip away your humanity. But for someone with unshakable conviction, it became something else entirely. It became proof of martyrdom. It became evidence of her faith. Every moment of suffering became a testament to her beliefs. When Anne was finally removed from the Little Ease, she was broken physically. Her body had deteriorated. Her muscles had atrophied, but her mind remained intact. Her spirit remained defiant. The authorities then escalated. They moved her from psychological torture to physical torture. In May 1546, Anne was taken to the rack, the instrument that would stretch your body until your joints dislocated. Lord Chancellor Wriothesley personally oversaw the torture. He turned the wheel himself, determined to extract confessions from this woman who had already survived the Little Ease. Anne was racked so severely that her joints were dislocated, her shoulders came out of their sockets. her hips separated. The pain would have been beyond description, yet even under the rack, even as her body was literally being torn apart, Anne maintained her composure. She screamed, yes, any human would, but she gave them nothing. No names, no confessions, no recantations. After the rack came further interrogations, more offers of mercy, more demands for information. And through it all, Anne Askew remained resolute. She would not betray her fellow reformers. She would not deny her faith. She would not give the authorities what they wanted. In July 1546, Anne was condemned to death, but the authorities were not finished with her yet. They decided to make an example of her. They decided on the ultimate punishment for heresy. She would be burned at the stake at Smithfield. On July 16, 1546, Anne was brought to Smithfield. She was so damaged by torture that she could not walk. She had to be carried to the stake in a chair. Witnesses reported that she was calm, she was dignified, she showed no fear. As the fire was lit, Anne Askew became the only woman ever to be tortured in the Tower of London. She became a Protestant martyr. And her story, the story of the Little Ease, the story of psychological torture designed to break the unbreakable, would echo through the centuries. The Little Ease itself would continue to be used throughout the Tudor period and beyond. Other prisoners would be confined there. Some broke, some went mad, but none of them would be remembered quite like Anne Askew. None of them would become a symbol of resistance to state power. After the Reformation, the Little Ease fell into disuse. By the 18th century, its location had become unclear. By the 19th century, historians could no longer pinpoint exactly where it had been. Some believed it was somewhere beneath the White Tower. Others thought it might have been in the dungeons of the Beauchamp Tower. To this day, no one knows its precise location. It may still be sealed somewhere beneath the Tower of London, a 4-foot cube of stone containing 470 years of lost screams. The psychological torture techniques pioneered in the Little Ease would be studied and refined by interrogators for centuries. Modern historians of torture have traced a direct line from the Little Ease to the isolation cells used in later centuries, to the sensory deprivation techniques of the 20th century. The principle remained the same: break the mind before you break the body. Strip away light, sound, movement, and hope. Wait for the human spirit to fracture. But Anne Askew proved that some spirits will not fracture. Some minds will not break. And sometimes the most powerful act of resistance is simply to endure. If you found yourself drawn into the darkness of the Little Ease, if the story of Anne Askew's defiance moved you, please hit that like button. It helps bring these forgotten histories to viewers who crave the truth. And if you want more episodes exploring the Tower of London, the Tudor persecutions, and the people who refused to be broken by absolute power, subscribe now and ring the notification bell. Tell me in the comments, would you survive the Little Ease? What would it take to make you break? I read every comment, and your stories inspire the next episode. Until next time, remember, some prisons are built of stone, some are built of darkness, and some of us are simply too stubborn to be confined by either. Next episode, we travel to 15th century Wallachia to meet the man whose forest of 20,000 impaled bodies made the most powerful empire in the world turn around and retreat. The Sultan's army of 150,000 soldiers saw what awaited them in the Targoviste forest, and for the first time in history, they refused to fight. Join us next time on Cruel Histories.